Some of you saw I ran up here thinking it was time to get up here. Anyways, well, once again, and you'll probably hear it a couple of more times, happy Pride Month. It makes me very proud to be a part of a community that not only honors but celebrates Pride, and that recognizes the important place that we as a spiritual community have to welcome all, to share with all that the beautiful ways in which they are expressing their unique divinity is not only wonderful, but it's a blessing. And so today is the first Sunday in Pride, and it's a month dedicated to celebrating the LGBTQ queer community, honoring its rich history of resilience. And could we all use some modeling of resilience in our lives? Amen? It's about celebrating individuals that are willing and able to claim their truth and stand in the face of people and situations that may want to dim that truth. And it's also highlights some of what we still are working to overcome and to move through. And I'm just really grateful that we as a spiritual community, and I believe that our teachings are set up to support what Pride is all about. And so many of you know that in April, when Miami Beach had their Pride event, it was the first time in 7 years that Unity on the Bay showed up at Pride again, welcomed people, got to tell people about who we are as an inclusive community, got to share our principles, and just let them know that we celebrated all of who they were. And I have to tell you, I think there are people in this room that we got to meet at Pride, and I just want to say, welcome. Welcome, and know that you are seen and celebrated. I also want to share with you, because I really want to highlight this, we not only showed up, but we were sponsors of Miami Beach Pride, and we were the only spiritual community that took that step of sponsoring it, and I'm really, really proud and grateful for that. Now, whether you are part of the LGBTQ community or not, this really is an opportunity for all of us to check in about how we're doing with breaking through some of the barriers that we have allowed ourselves to feel, some of the limitations that we have taken on about being our most authentic self, right? Because all of us are moving, I believe, through an experience of who am I? What am I? And how can I stand firm in my truth regardless of what is going on? All of us have something to uncover, and all of us have something that we can continually come out from. Many times we don't even realize some of the stuff that is within us, and we don't give ourselves permission to recognize the beautiful, unique ways in which we are meant to thrive, to express, to radiate in this world. And so the experience of coming out isn't necessarily just an experience for the LGBTQ community. We really all are invited to celebrate our most authentic self and just feel that. Like, how liberating is it? Feel how liberating it is to drop the desire to be within the norm or conform to other people's ideas and judgments of who you're supposed to be or what you're supposed to do. Feel the liberation that it comes from just recognizing I'm unique and it's beautiful and it's something that can be honored and celebrated, and that we individually step into honoring and celebrating us more fully. It's a self-acceptance that begins to radiate so that there is greater acceptance outside of us. Now, I didn't have a dad joke for you this morning, and I'm literally about to quote a musical genius that many of you may not have even heard of because he's so cool. So this might be the turning over of a new leaf from dad jokes to just being super cool. That might be the joke itself, right? So Troye Sivan, I was reading an article about him, and he's a musician, and I just loved what he said. He said, I'm on the path to being someone I'm equally terrified by and obsessed with. my true self. Been there? Feel that? I believe that all of us, right, like as we're moving through this spiritual journey, I mean, maybe it's not an obsession, but it's definitely an intention, right? An intention to really embrace who we are and to get to know our most authentic self and really do the work and the practices that bring us to it. And boy, do we have to walk through some really scary places sometimes in order to do that. Boy, do we have to deal with fears that we may have been living with and didn't even recognize were in us. For whatever it may be, whatever we allowed ourselves to sort of step into when we were younger, when other people were trying to tell us what was the norm, what were the ways in which we were meant to show up, how we were meant to live, and the boxes that felt safe for other people for us to live into. And so living authentically, which I believe this is what it's all about, and our spiritual journey is all about just knowing and ourselves more fully and living authentically, it is a powerful spiritual practice. And it is a practice because we get reminded and we get opportunities moment by moment to be authentic in how we show up and to be comfortable with who we are authentically. Now, I don't know if many of you know, but I am gay. And I love my gayness. I love my gayness. I love my gayness because I really recognize that as I was coming to terms with my gayness, it's the first time that my most authentic self was saying it's enough. Like who you are trying to be because of your family, because of your community, because of what you were seeing, that no longer works. And my most authentic self was just pushing through. And the moment that I not only accepted, but started living into my most authentic self in my gayness, it opened up the door for me to question all the things that I had been taught. And so I started to question not only my sexuality, but I started to question, well, wait, is it my religion or the religion of my parents that I'm living into? Is it who I believe I'm meant to be in the future? The profession that is calling me, the profession that I am called to, or is it the profession of my parents or what society would have me do? And so for me, it was the gateway, whether you are part of the LGBTQ community and that is the gateway where you started to recognize more fully the power of questioning the norm and stepping into your authentic self, or whether it's something else, right? It's because it's for all of us, whatever it was that we started to question. And I believe that we're still in the question because it is an uncovering and it is an unraveling that takes place, and the onion keeps getting peeled. And we get to know more about who we are in our authentic self, how we are so uniquely created and that we are unique expressions of the divine. And that's one of the things that I was thinking of, that we forget that our uniqueness is an expression of our divinity, that there's no separation there, that our divinity, yes, it makes us part of the oneness. It is one of the beautiful ways in which we are interconnected, and oneness doesn't mean sameness. That we are all unique expressions of that oneness. And that our oneness actually doesn't ask us to diminish our unique ways of expressing. It actually lifts them up. It actually reminds us of how sacred it is. And it reminds us that together as that community of oneness, each of us play a role and each of us are gifted in the unique ways in which we're made to continue to uplift humanity, to continue to bring us into a sense of our own divinity. And it's work. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Yeah, and some of us have learned that the hard way. Some of us are still working with it. Some of us are still learning. Some of us know it, but have to remind ourselves of it. How many of us have given into conforming before? and others' expectations of us, that somehow we told ourselves were our expectations of ourselves so that we could live more fully into them without realizing, wait a minute, that isn't mine. That isn't something that is in me. That is somebody else's that I took on for myself. And so wherever it is, whatever place in your life where you are simply just trying to fit in, question it. Question it, because the boxes that we try to fit ourselves in are also the limitations and the boundaries that we are allowing ourselves to be constricted by. Could we, in this moment, accept that we are magnificent? It's Pride Month, so I'll say fabulously unique. That being our true self, our most authentic self, is one of the most awesome things that we can do. I mean, look around the room. If you're watching from home and you're with somebody, look at them or try to see within this room. But the very unique ways in which we get to show up and the very unique ways in which we get to come together, how awesome it is that we are as unique as we are, and that many of us have started to accept how beautiful our uniqueness is. Can we stand firm in our truth, especially when the world is trying to tell us that we should be something else? Can we really own it so much, own our true, authentic self so much that regardless of what is going on, here I am. Here I am. And it's so interesting. So it's not every day that you bring Moses into a talk about pride. But this morning, it really reminded me when I was thinking about, we are who we are, right? And there's beauty in that. I was reminded of the story of Moses with the burning bush. And it's the time when, who is this talking to me through the burning bush? And God speaks and says, I am that I am. I am that I am. There's layers to that, right? First to recognize that God, divinity itself, is saying, there is no way to define me. There are no boundaries. There are no limits on how I can show up. And it's beautiful. And it is my authentic nature to show up boundless, unlimited, uniquely. But I also love, imagine if somebody just asks you, well, who are you? We immediately go to my name is, or this is who this is what I do. It's imagine being so strong in who you are. Who are you? I am that I am. I am that I am. Imagine just how strong and powerful it is, how much faith in ourselves we would need to have to be able to stand firm in I am that I am. Period. And you don't get to define me. I don't get to even put limits on myself or boundaries on myself. I am that I am. When somebody questions you, who do you think you are? I am that I am. When somebody questions your authentic self and how you're showing up, I am that I am. When somebody questions your dreams and your aspirations, and who do you think you are to be able to have those dreams and those aspirations? I am that I am. Just even as I speak that, right? I am empowered by it. I feel it. And I imagine that you do too. It's one of the greatest examples that I know where God is sharing with us just the power that is within us and the power that we have when we recognize that power. And I get it that being our most authentic self can be scary. Being our most authentic selves can feel and actually at some times be dangerous. I get all that because I know that those that are scared about our authenticity or your authenticity sometimes lash out, just like I did when I wasn't comfortable with my authentic self. And so I understand that we are experiencing some of that, but I also understand that we have the power to not only stand firm in our truth, but to be able to be different in the world and make the world different. Elizabeth Santurner says, intellectually, we know that God is all power, but we are not fully aware of God's power until we feel it within ourselves. So don't talk about a God outside of you being that power. Can you own the power that is within you, regardless of the judgments, regardless of the guilt or the shame that you may have yourself felt before? Can you bring your attention, bring your focus, bring your intention to the power that lies within you to be able to not only know your most authentic self, but to love and accept your most authentic self, to express and radiate your most authentic self? Hafiz, a poet who I just love, he talks about what is already within us to be able to move through this journey. He says, we have come into this exquisite world to experience ever more deeply our divine courage, freedom, and light. To know that that courage is already within us. We just have to release, like the Daily Word said, release that which stands in our way, our old patterns of being, our old patterns of how we have thought of ourselves, and just step and claim divine courage to be who we are. And in that, feel the freedom. And when you feel that freedom, to fully radiate that light, liberating that light from within us, to experience it, to uncover it, to ask what is trying to be birthed through me as I step more fully into my authentic self. See, as I said, coming out for me was a big part of me owning myself, and it was a very powerful experience. But I don't really feel like I was coming out. I mean, at the moment, I did feel like I was coming out as gay, but looking back on it, what I was really coming out to was self-love. I was coming out to self-worth, that an idea that I was worthy of belonging, that I was worthy of being loved, that I was worthy of living my life to the fullest. And whether you are part of the LGBTQ community or not, we all tend to have fears and question whether we can live into our dreams, whether we can step into our most authentic self. And yet, we have the courage, we have the power, we have the freedom, and we are the light that allows us to do that. It's being able to recognize that we have a right to exist in the unique ways in which our divinity shows up. And I believe that being gay was simply my soul's way of working through the false illusions of separation, of being unworthy, of not being enough. And each of us have our own, right? Like each of our souls have their own way and process for us to uncover who we are and to step fully in power and in courage to live our most authentic self. And so I ask, what parts of you are you not living into? What parts of you have you not wanting to see or separate from you? What power are you not willing to accept within you? What dreams are you not letting yourself dream because you don't think you're worthy? Or because you don't think you're enough to live into those dreams? What part of you still doesn't feel lovable? What part of you doesn't feel loving? Where does guilt and shame show up for you? And aren't you tired of that? Aren't you willing to live into your most authentic selves? There are still areas in many of our lives where we haven't claimed our worthiness, our sacred worth, and be able to live into, I simply am that I am, and that is enough. I am that I am, and it's more than enough. It's just true. What are areas of your life are asking you to be more brave and vulnerable? Specific relationship, at work, at home, a dream, a vision. Maybe you don't feel comfortable being vulnerable enough to speak a vision or a dream or even recognize it within you. but we have the power and the strength within us. Joshua chapter 1, verse 9 says, I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Christ is with you wherever you go. We were manifested, created, and made with everything that we already needed in order to uncover our most authentic selves and live into it proudly, for we are the Christ in expression. And so it's an opportunity for us to really trust in our power. And you know, I'm a very big optimist, but I've said it before, I'm not a sugarcoater. You know, it can be hard and it can be difficult, and Lord knows there are a lot of different things that are happening even in Florida that are trying to tell us not to fully be proud and grateful and celebrate who we are. But we've got this. I know it. I trust it. That we can show up in our power, that we can live into that which is true in us, and that through our uniqueness, we are able to create the spaces not only for ourselves to live into it, but we're able to create the spaces for other people to feel safe and comfortable to explore who they are as their most authentic self. Can we stand firm in this truth? When somebody asks, who do you think you are? Say it with me. I am that I am. When somebody is questioning, who are you to have that dream or want to show up in the world in this way? I am that I am. Think about a dream or an aspiration that you have. Maybe one that you've spoken out loud, maybe one that you haven't spoken out loud. Maybe one that you fully own, maybe one that you haven't fully owned. Who do you think you are to have them? I am that I am. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes for a moment. See yourself again, like we did in the meditation, in front of a mirror. Look straight into your eyes. See your divinity. See the beauty and the exquisite expression of God that you are. And tell yourself right here and right now, I am that I am. Say it out loud. I am that I am. I am that I am. And it's unique. And it's beautiful, and it is the way that we are intended to live our lives. Every single one of us has a very unique and special way of expressing our divinity. And it's time that we not only honor it, but that we celebrate it, and that we live and embody it more fully. At the end of the day, you know, I have to bring in the song into it. Don't stop the feeling. Don't allow yourself to stop the dance. Dance at your own dance, sing your own song. And if anything, just remember what Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, everyone else is taken. Namaste. Thank you so much for visiting our YouTube channel. We post new videos every week to keep you positive, present, and inspired to your divinity. Please click on the subscribe button below and also that notification bell. Remember to share this with your friends and your family, those that you know will be inspired just like you have been. And always remember that we love you, that we bless you, that we behold the Christ in you, and we see you doing great things. Thanks and take care.